from my perspective, business ethics has traveled an interesting trajectory. I think that, and I'll use the terminology that a colleague of mine used when I was a postdoc at University of Michigan. I think that what happened initially was we were just kind of on the periphery. That business ethics was initially seen almost as a necessary evil, as a legitimating device that a business school had to have in order to signal that, yes, we do care about the public, or we care about the standards by which our graduates conduct themselves. And then, to use the terminology of a colleague of mine who taught finance at Michigan Business School, he said, you know what? He said, you're a boutique luxury item. That once business schools got their feet, we became boutique goods. So there were the leading schools and I think primarily religious institutions for whom business ethics was always core to what they did. And there were philosophers, the founders of the Society for Business Ethics, who really had a passionate commitment to it, regardless of where they found themselves, whether at business schools or in philosophy departments. We then became a boutique good. And then I think increasingly, for a range of reasons, some of which have to do with just spectacular ethical failures like Enron and WorldCom, and some of which have to do with financial realities, business ethics has moved more towards the center. When I first started my career, I was told by one faculty member who studied ethics never to mention Ben & Jerry's because he was told that's not real capitalism. I was also told, I went through a PhD program in organizational behavior, and folks not in my own program who actually understood what I was doing, but other people would say, I think that's career suicide. What you really need is another field to focus on. And right now, if you look at organizational behavior PhD programs, if you look at the academic journals, if you even look at the practitioner journals, increasingly articles are about ethics. And so we are being taken up not just by societies like the Society for Business Ethics, but by organizations that span disciplines, and they're all now concerned with ethics as well. And some of this, I think, has to do with something that Ben Heinemann, the former chief legal counsel at General Electric, observed, which is 10 years ago, an ethical lapse was an issue of tens of millions of dollars. It's now a hundreds of millions of dollars issue, and it can sink a company. So I think just the brutal reality of the way business is now conducted has moved us from being an afterthought to being a boutique good to now being, I think, much more central to what business schools are all about. And I would add to that an observation that the sociologist Robert Merton made in the early 1970s, which is that once a society has established economic stability and a certain level of affluence, people start to ask the question, affluence for what? And I think that what's happened now is our students, our alumni of business schools are really curious to know what is the larger purpose that business is intended to serve. And this opens a range of ethical questions, because questions about purpose, ends, that's all about ethics. So I think we've moved along this trajectory, and the question now is, what do we do since we now have a full-fledged seat at the table?